Mm-hmm. 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 Surprise, traders.
Let's
God
go.
bless you and your families. How
I
are we
wake up
doing
to a
on this
little bit of drool on my
beautiful
pillow, feel like it's
Thursday
gonna
night, guys? I wanted to cover IWM first because as a broader small cap market, right, you have a more structural breakout on the way, which bodes well for AMC, GameStop, and Neo stock. And then we're going to get into the bull and the bear case scenarios on Neo stock. So make sure to stay the full length of the video. Gonna get every inch of DD for you guys. And make sure to slap the like button. That way the algorithm pushes this out to Neo followers, right? So IWM, you saw a falling broadening wedge. Now I was thinking that might be a megaphone pattern, but it's not because you have downsloping resistance and downsloping support. So you had a falling broadening wedge on the stock. Now the technical profit target is the full bottom to top here. And then you put that in, that's around 301 schmeckles, traders. So that's a beautiful thing, as that has been our overall thesis on IWM, or the small cap risk on assets basket for these stocks since like 8 to 9 months ago since we started this channel. So beautifully to see that come to fruition. But you have seen multiple touches of bearish divergence. I think it's about 6 now, right? Making a touch there, touch there, touch there, touch there, touch there. And really the question is, when does that larger macro peel back happen? And it's showing no signs of slowing down. Even though you have all these different gaps below you on IWM, 264.73, 252.88, right? You just closed the daily candle with a hammer candle, guys. That's bullish. You go to the weekly time frame, you close slightly bearish, right? But still at an all-time high. So there is nothing, in my opinion, that is stopping you from continuing to mark upwards. And we do have that current threshold of resistance right around 308, right, from these local tops. So I think that's the most likely scenarios. You come up here to 308, and then you find some kind of bearishly divergent top, and then you come back down for a longer peel back to fill the gaps. In my opinion, right, not financial advice, but that does set up nicely for Neo stock, guys, right? Neo stock has been highly undervalued and very, very hard to look at the last couple of months, right? I mean, just trading from April all the way to now, you're trading down 30%. That's about a 61-day pullback. But traders, there's finally a mist of optimism. Yeah, optimism. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a mist of optimism among retail shareholders of Neo stock, and we had originally traded up that this thing was in a falling broadening wedge as well, right? Just like IWM. But what you're doing at the moment is you're finding a bottom that is bullishly divergent. Now, this could either take off like crazy, right? Because you're having a similar situation to back here where you had a touch of bullish div, equal low, but a slightly higher low on the RSI. What you're doing right now is significantly lower low, significantly higher low on the RSI. That has not been seen in quite some time, traders, but I wanted to give you the bear case scenario first, right? Because I feel like it would be doing a disservice for me not to cover this for you guys. Look at where you are on the charts, right? You're right at that uptrend, guys. Literally right on top of it. Now, this is why I personally vested in the Neo stock. I find it a very good value play, right? You guys do what you want with your money, do your own due diligence, but I think Neo stock at $5 flat is a freaking steal. You came down here off of this rug, right? And you filled the gap fill, currently sitting at 498. Now, that was for me what I had been talking about all the way since you rejected this, right? I was like, be careful for this because that was your previous high here. Looks very head and shouldery, and that's what played out, unfortunately. But you had a couple of gaps beneath you. Now, this one is still remaining to be filled at 259, right? But we don't want to see that fill whatsoever, traders. I just want to give you the bad case scenario first so you guys can prepare accordingly, right? Hedge, whatever you got to do your own due diligence. This is very, very reminiscent of a potential falling wedge, right? And I want to show you guys an example of this on Neo stock's previous trading history, right? I'm doing my own due diligence here, looking for a potential setup on one of the biggest runs that Neo stock has had in its recent memory, right? A beautiful, beautiful falling wedge setup in which you had not just a breakout, but a retest and a spring. From this, you saw multiple lower lows and multiple touches of bullish divergence, guys. You can see just how well Neostock respects the bullish div on the RSI, and that's why I love to trade Neostock in this manner. Looking at the multiple lows, so you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 touches of bullish divergence before you finally, right, sprung from the low here up 126% traders. Now, do your own due diligence, right? We've said that a couple times, but this thing is now put in one touch of bullish divergence. You have multiple gaps above you. If you come back up here, fill this gap from the shooting star candle at 568 and then 97. There's a high opportunity that you do something along these lines and you shake out a lot of retail people, right? Fill that gap. Everyone's thinking, oh my God, we're going to the moon, we're going higher. And then you kind of fizzle out here, lose the uptrend, and then everyone and their mother is starting to worry about Neostock. What you could do in completing this kind of falling wedge is if you continue to put in, right, bullish div, bullish div, bullish div, there's going to be very clear writing on the wall that this thing is about to spring like it is not since all the way back in 2023, right, when you ran 150%. Now, what you would also do in this scenario is you're filling that last supply gap before sending this thing on a little bit of a run, right? And I think that is a very potential scenario. Just looking at the structure, you would still remain intact, not just with this inverted head and shoulders, right? But also this falling wedge. So don't fear, even if you lose this uptrend, guys. I am not going anywhere on Neostock. I do believe in the macro, and I think the fundamentals are coming together nicely as well, right? So regardless of what happens, I am still bullish. I just want to outline that potential bearish scenario as that would kind of delay things here. But on the short term, you do have a couple different things to like about Neo. And one of them is your volume profile, right? We're going to get into Webull for this one. Let's see. There we go. So on Webull, there is one thing that I absolutely hate on the weekly time frame, but there's one thing that I absolutely love, right? You've been down 3 straight weeks on Neostock and 3 straight weeks of depressive volumes. You're seeing a volume of 126 million shares traded last week, only seen since, what is that, April? When you first made that first mark down. Now, trading down on low volume is an overall good thing, especially if you're coming into a strong uptrend, just like you are on Neostock, right? Look at the average return off of this uptrend that you've seen. This one, 50%. This one, short term, 50%. And if you do the full length, it's 150. This one, short term, 41%, full length is 59%. So you're seeing an average return within 2-3 weeks off of this trendline bounce of about 50%. Where does 50% higher take you today? 50% higher takes you almost exactly into a test of 771. That is the most crucial and critical horizontal trend line for Neostock in its entire history, as you've seen multiple stark and steep rejections off of that. And it's also your neckline, traders, off of the inverted head and shoulders formation. So that's what we're watching very, very closely here as you go into a long weekend. We'd like to see lots of chitter chatter about Neostock and for Monday to open up green, because you need to see a bounce here if you want to see urgent upside price action, right? Seeing that and a break and a close on the weekly time frame above 771 is what gives us that overall macro profit target on Neostock that I do believe is very possible, of upwards of $20, right? That would be a struggle to get past 16, because 16 is heavy resistance. But the full extension of that profit target is $20. So that's what we would be watching for on Neostock in the macro. And that is what we would be watching for a potential break of this very long-winded accumulation pattern, guys. On the weekly time frame, I did say, right, just a second ago, I did say that I didn't like this current move though, right? Look at the EMAs. You have the 9-day crossing through the 50 almost. Typically when you see that, you see big explosions, right? This is cross to the upside. Next week you saw an 18% gap up. This was a cross down. You saw a rejection, and then the next week a 10% gap down. This was a cross through. The next week you saw a 32% gap up. And then the previous ones, right? The previous cross down, you saw an obliteration cross of the 9 through the 50, and then a 20% gap down, right? So this thing has been pretty accurate on NeoStock, which would bode and favor our first scenario in which you make this a falling wedge situation, and then you fill the gap at 459, right? That would be your worst case scenario on NeoStock, unless you can see some kind of crazy price action going into Monday and flipping the macro on the bears. All right, looking at the daily time frame, you rejected perfectly the 9-day EMA. You closed beneath it, which is not bullish overall after filling the gap above you. That is picture perfect kind of bear flag movements. So you need to see bulls step into the stock on Monday in a very meaningful and impactful way. Otherwise, this thing is going to find lower lows. Now, you've made a touch of bullish div. This thing responds horrifically or amazingly off of the bullish divergences. So there is a possibility if you see a gap up or a run on Monday that you test 560, which is right around where that 250-day EMA currently trade, guys. That is on its way to being a death cross, first one since back here, which overall did not impact you too much, right? It's still not bullish though. So you just have to be wary, and you got to hope you get back above that 50-day EMA at 560 in a hurry, right? Because if you fail to do that, it's likely that you kind of continue to trade into that gap fill. But overall, traders, I am very, very bullish on NeoStock, regardless of what the short term and the long term look like. We've covered this pretty religiously on this channel, right? And regardless of how long it takes, I think that's the biggest concern with people is that these accumulation patterns, these macro moves take time, right? And patience pays, in my opinion. Looking at the quarterly time frame, you have an overall uptrend on the macro, right? Making higher lows and potentially, I don't know if this would ever happen, but a higher high on the stock. Last time you saw a quarterly MACD cross, very similar and reminiscent to AMC, which I've been talking about recently a lot. You have seen huge macro moves, right? Moves like this. That was the first time since June of 2020. You're about to get it again if you can get above 771. That's why that level is so critical, because not only are you breaking the resistance of the entire stock, but you're also getting above what is required to get a quarterly MACD cross, right? So that's where you're going to see these big moves, right? Potentially upwards of $100, right? Whether or not that happens, there's a lot of things and variables that go into that, right? RSI and the strength, the volume on the stock, right? If you look at the volume profile, you've been consolidating down the last 4 months, which favors a big move either to the upside or the downside. So time will tell, right? We will find out what happens on this stock. But the more you zoom out, the more it looks very reminiscent of a shoulder, head, right shoulder, shoulder, head, right shoulder. And everything else in between, guys, is just noise, in my opinion. 4-hour chart, potentially getting a cross down on the MACD, which is not a great look unless you find this bounce. Let's see. You did break a short-term resistance line, and you're now retesting it. So that is your hope for a potential bounce. I expect still significant resistance at 560, as that's where the 4-hour 200 is hovering as well. Daily time frame. Increase on volume day over day. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all I got, guys. Um, I bought some Neo today or 2 days ago, so we'll see how it goes. Excited and optimistic. I would say those are the two things I would describe the most for the stock. But as always, guys, God bless each and every single one of you. Hope you're having a fantastic freaking Thursday, as well as Friday tomorrow, right? National holiday. Um, as always, God bless you and your families. And remember, traders, the best is yet to come. Let's go.